Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hope you all been doing great. Yeah, tonight on the Faithful American, we're going to do a little bit of a different type of video here. Guess this is what you would call a response video. So I've had several people make comments during different videos of mine that I shoot here in the living room where you can see the animals behind me. Obviously, that's a trigger for some of you guys. That doesn't mean I'm going to quit shooting videos here, because I'm not. But I'm getting a lot of comments, several at least, that along the lines of, how can you be a hunter as a Christian? How can you be a Christian and kill those innocent animals? So thought it might be interesting for me to shoot a video, not to, justify, although I guess that's what I'm doing. I'm explaining. But just to, expand upon my perspective as a Christian hunter. And if you're open-minded, and that's difficult, I know, for some people, but if you're open-minded and you just listen to what I'm presenting to you, I'm going to do it from multiple angles, okay, on why I hunt and why not only can a Christian hunt, but I believe it's extremely ethical and it's necessary. It's a very necessary thing to hunt animals. Okay, so I'm going to give it a shot. First, we're going to start with heritage. So, I think it's important to understand where you come from. As humans, we're hunters and gatherers from the beginning. But even myself, if I just look at my upbringing, raised in West Virginia, the mountains of West Virginia, my dad took me small game hunting early on as a little kid. I don't know how old I was, but if I had to guess, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, something like that. Some of my fondest memories were him taking me to Sleepy Creek National Forest, and we'd go up there in the mountains and be so cold and ice and snow and wind, and we'd be squirrel hunting, and we'd hunt all morning. A lot of times just freeze our butts off and not see any squirrels, but occasionally we did, and we'd get a shot. And it was just the most exciting memories I have as a kid, just being with my dad, being up there in the mountains, being in the outdoors, wildlife. It's not about killing every time you go out, I don't even know what the statistic would be, but I would imagine I go out 100 times and don't harvest an animal versus, actually harvesting an animal. But, so my memories, I was brought up as a kid, small game hunting. My dad wasn't a big deer hunter, he never took me deer hunting, but he introduced me to, rabbit hunting, squirrel hunting. And as I grew up, I became a teenager and I got into bow hunting. We didn't have any private land. I wasn't a rifle hunter until I think 31 years old was the first time I shot a deer with a rifle. Yeah, so, it was mainly archery. Grew up reading Fred Bear, magazine articles and books. And, was more gravitated towards archery. But again, very rarely connected with an animal, but just had tremendous memories with even my best friend. The day that I harvested or shot my first deer with a bow was a 4-point skipping school with my best friend at that time, who has since passed away from cancer. But that's a memory that I'll never forget, So I love the outdoors. Been a hunter most of my life. Okay, so that's my upbringing. That's where I come from. Second section, maybe the most important, is conservation, right? So let me explain a little bit of conservation just quickly. If the animals do not have value and they're not managed, and when I mean managed, I'm talking about overpopulation, I'm talking about predators, like there's a mountain lion above me you can't see. I harvested a mountain lion in Idaho in, I think, 2018. There's 6 tags in that area that are awarded by the state. They're expensive, and that money goes into conservation for the tag. It's very controlled, and they have 6 tags for a reason, because if they don't harvest 6 animals, and it's different every year, and there's a lot of biologists and people that monitor that on a daily basis throughout the year. But if we don't harvest those animals, then what they do is they destroy the mule deer and elk populations. I mean, they decimate them. They just kill too many. Okay, so Levi, get back. Yeah, so conservation is an important thing. That's just one example. In Africa, these animals behind me, in Africa, You know, those populations are so poor over there. The hunters' dollars are tremendous, okay? The money that we spend, I'm talking about tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars per hunter, okay? Not every hunter spends tens of thousands, but they all spend thousands, okay, to go over there and to hunt. And these animals that I took, I did eat the meat from these animals. You know, we took select cuts of meat. If I would harvest them during the day, they'd cook them at night. And of course, we couldn't eat the whole animal. And you can't bring that meat back over here. But that meat went to the local communities who struggled to get protein in their daily life. So it provided a service. It provided food for the locals. You're supporting their industry over there. That money goes into the community. And the animals have value, okay? If you don't hunt, especially in Africa, they don't have value. And when they don't have value, then they get poached. And poaching, if you're an anti-hunter, then you ought to be familiar with poaching and the methods they use, which are just god-awful, okay? I mean, they are horrific. Snares and what that looks like and what the animal goes through. And most of the time, the animals are never recovered. The people don't even come back for them. Okay, and they use antiquated weapons because they have laws over there where, you know, they can't own hunting rifles. And somebody else can argue whether they should. I think they should, but they can't. So anyway, we invest with our money, we provide meat, we provide value to the animal, which protects the animal. I'm not going to go through all the cases, but if you're open-minded and you want to do some research on elephants over there and some of the countries that you know, banned elephant hunting because they thought it was the right thing to do or it made somebody feel good. You know, when those dollars disappeared, and when I'm talking about an elephant, I'm talking about 20 to 50 grand, $60,000 per elephant. When that money disappeared, there was no money for game scouts, no money for anti-poaching units, and those animals get decimated by poachers, by illegal organized crime units over there, Chinese and others, that just cut the ivory out of the animal and let it lay, especially rhino, same thing with the rhino horn. And yeah, there's nobody to protect the animal. There's no money to go into it, so they don't get protected, right? So a lot of those countries that have banned it have reopened it because they learned a lesson. Also population control. You have to control the population. So those animals, when I'm hunting in Africa, you can't just go out there and shoot as many as you want and whatever you want. You know, it's very tightly controlled over there. You have to be with a professional hunter. They tell you which animal you can harvest. They're looking for mature animals that are not in the breeding age anymore, so that they've done their duty for the environment and the continuation of their species, and now they're another head that's out there grazing. So they can provide value and everything that I mentioned, and be a trophy for me, yes, that memorializes that hunt and that I can enjoy. And if you don't understand that, I'm not going to be able to explain it to you, and I'm not going to apologize for it. So, okay, that's conservation. Yeah, let's go into, and also on conservation, so the money that I spend, you know, the people that are anti-hunters, how much money do they donate to conservation? To Ducks Unlimited, to Delta Waterfowl. I'm going to get the name wrong, but you can look up the act, the Pittman-Hartman, or I don't know. Sorry for screwing that up. Should have looked it up before the video, but there was an act passed where, you know, people like me, that when you buy ammo or you buy hunting licenses or you buy rifles, shotguns, you know, anything to do with hunting, there's a special tax that we hunters pay, okay? Anti-hunters don't pay that. We pay that. We invest our money, and that money goes into conserving the animals and taking care and managing populations, to draft new hunting laws, because overpopulation of animals does not help the animals, okay? There's only so much space that they have and so much land that they can graze, and we could argue about why that is, but that's not the point of this video. That's a whole nother subject. But anyway, so conservation's number 2. Number 3 is, I am a Christian, and how can a Christian hunt? Well, you know, the first person that ever brought this up to me, they knew where I was going to go, and they cited it in their comment, and I'm going there. Of course I'm going there. So if you're a Christian, you're into Scripture, and you're a hunter, most of us know Genesis 9:2. It's what you call the birthplace of hunting if you're a Christian. So I'm going to go there. Genesis 9:2. What does it say? Quote, "The fear of you and the terror of you will be on every beast of the earth and on every bird of the sky, with everything that creeps on the ground and all the fish of the sea. In your hand they are given." Okay? That's pretty specific. Can't be much clearer than that. But just in case you want another one, I'll go to Acts 10. You got Acts 10, 9 through 13, okay? I'm going to read through it quickly, okay, to not take up too much time here, but this is where Peter and he was hungry, okay? It says, "On the next day, as they were on their way and approaching the city, Peter went up on the housetop about the 6th hour to pray. But he became hungry and was desiring to eat. But while they were making preparations, he fell into a trance. And he saw the sky opened up, and an object like a great sheet coming down, lowered by 4 corners to the ground. And there were in it all kinds of 4-footed animals, and crawling creatures of the earth, and birds of the air. And a voice came to him, 'Get up, Peter, kill and eat.'" All right, so that's from the Lord, which is good enough for me. And maybe I'll close with just one of my own. So I think I have another answer, and this one will probably trigger some of you, but so be it. How can a Christian hunt? With a bow, with a shotgun, with a rifle, with a pistol, with a crossbow, with a spear if you want to, and it's legal. But that's some of the ways that a Christian can hunt. All right? Okay. Well, if you stayed here till the end and you're an anti-hunter, I appreciate you at least hearing me out, okay? So thanks for watching this video, and until I see you next time, God bless all of you.